Good morning, traders. Welcome to the Bookmap Platform Details webinar. This is Bruce at Bookmap. Risk disclaimer: trading futures, equities, and digital currencies involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. So what we do in this webinar is we introduce you to Bookmap, talk about the different traders that use it, how to connect Bookmap to the various markets, how to get Bookmap and subscribe to it, and then start to look at the live market and start to go through the basic elements on the Bookmap chart and define them so you understand what you're looking at, and then we'll start to look at some of the order flow basics, okay? Reading the Bookmap chart and then getting insight from it. All right, so that said, there is another webinar following this one at 11 a.m. Eastern, and we go through advanced order flow, okay? Very structured and looking directly at order flow phenomena. It's not so much about Bookmap, what Bookmap is showing us, but it's really about using Bookmap for analyzing the market and looking for opportunities. Okay, that's the advantage that you get with Bookmap, is being able to understand the it has a unique way of visualizing the order flow so that you can understand it and then make more informed trading decisions. All right, so let's jump into the website, and you can ask any questions you have regarding a Bookmap in the questions area there. And we'll scroll down and define what Bookmap is. Okay, we are a software trading platform. We're not an indicator, an add-on, or some derivative of time, price, or volume. In fact, we're a very objective visualization of the market, and no sort of like a time, price, or volume derivative. It's really a very objective view of what's going on in the market. All right, so let's continue on. Who uses Bookmap? Day traders, scalpers, swing traders, quants, even position traders. The visualization works on all time frames, and I'll show you that from very low time frame to very high time frame for the day. All right, we'll continue on. Get an edge in the markets. You can read more about this here. We're going to go through a lot of it during the webinar here. And then connectivity. So this is important because we are software. We're not a broker, we're not a data provider. So we connect to 3 different markets: futures, US equities, and digital currencies. And now the data for the digital currencies is free. So you won't need a data provider there. But for equities and futures, you will need to have a data provider or go through your broker. So for example, with US equities, here's how you connect: with DX feed. Okay, that's the only method right now. You will need to subscribe to Bookmap and DX feed. For more information, you can click here and go through, get more information on the subject. For futures, you can connect a variety of different ways: Rhythmic, CQG, Gain Capital, Transact, IQ Feed, Nanotick, and Cedro. Okay, Cedro is for Brazilian markets, but you can also see that there's 3 different platforms listed here: Interactive Brokers Traders Workstation, Ninja 7 and 8, and TT Xtrader Pro. Okay, you can also connect Bookmap via the API of these 3 different platforms. However, it's recommended to bypass their API and go directly with the data provider, like Rhythmic or CQG. Okay, you can click here for a trial of data. Some words about Bookmap, testimonials, and then the different pricing and packages. So let's go through this and then we'll look at the live markets. You can subscribe yearly here and get a bit of a discount, or you can subscribe monthly. Okay, you'll see that there's 2 different digital versions and there's 2 different global versions. Okay, with the digital versions, this is for digital currencies only. For the global versions, they connect to all the different markets. Okay, so the digital version over here is free. The data is free for GDAX and or BitMEX or OKCoin or Bitfinex. So the data is free, and the market's open 24/7. So you can always look at a live market with this free version. Now, if you're an equities trader, you also get a US equities delayed data feed here. And if you're a futures trader, well, you can download a file and replay it from a futures, past market activity. Now, if you want to look at the live market though, then you'll need to go with the global version. Okay, try it out for a month. It's 49 bucks. If it works for you, that's great. If not, just cancel and nothing lost. All right, so that's the digital free version. And some of the limitations there, you only get the basic education and you get limited support. Now, the digital plus version allows you to connect to multiple instruments, okay, per exchange, so 20 different currencies per exchange, and you can trade right from the Bookmap chart into your GDAX or BitMEX account. You can record and replay your data, and you get the advanced education and full support. Okay, now the big distinction between Digital Plus and Global is just the ability to connect to the futures markets and the US equities markets, and that's it. It includes everything else, the data though, you will need to provide for the futures and equities. Okay, now moving on to the Global Plus, this is the Cadillac version here, and you get all of our add-on indicators that we developed, okay, proprietary indicators and add-ons. One is the ability to trade right from the Bookmap chart using one-click trading. Okay, this is a really big advantage because you have the liquidity heat map in front of you. Therefore, you can front run high liquidity and look for higher probability of getting filled. Okay, not only with your entries, but also your take profits. For your stop losses, you can hide them behind high liquidity, okay, for less of a chance of getting stopped out. Okay, large lot tracker. This is a proprietary indicator that identifies larger players in the order book. Okay, we want to understand what the larger players' activities are because they move the market. Okay, we have some imbalance indicators as well for both the book and for volume. We have an iceberg detector, again looking at larger players that they don't want to show high liquidity. Okay, they want to hide it from you, and they'll use iceberg orders. Okay, but our algo can detect them. And correlation tracker, adding different markets right onto the Bookmap chart, which is a nice one. We've been using that a few weeks ago pretty frequently. Scroll down a little bit more. I just want to go through a few resources and then we'll look at the live market. Blog posts here. You can also click above on the toolbar for blog. And then our Twitter account here, all sorts of information here. And some live trades from different educators, as you can see from Walter here. Also from myself here, different strategies and trading setups, etc. So yeah, take a look here. All sorts of great information and interviews with pro traders, for example, if you scroll down a little bit further. And if you also want to get insight to our educational process, there's one that's available here. Okay, so you can click on that. In fact, I'll show it to you here on the next resource, our YouTube channel. Okay, so if you're new to Bookmap, then I would recommend watching some of these intro videos. Then some of the features and components. You want to understand a bit more of what Bookmap is showing you. But these selected webinars, here's the one I was just speaking of. If you want insight to our process and education, well, this was from last Friday. Okay, so you can watch that. We usually give out the link to the Friday webinar so that you guys can get a peek into what that education involves. And then these order flow video snippets, I think you'll find very helpful. These go through the order flow phenomena that Bookmap can visualize for you. This is where you're going to get the advantage, right? And this is what we go through in the advanced order flow webinar all the time. All right, let's jump into Bookmap and see what's going on. Okay, we're looking at the S&P 500 here. Let's just jump over to the NASDAQ. We've been looking at the NASDAQ for quite a while, just because there's a little more volatility, a little more movement, and a little more follow through in those markets. Okay, instead of S&P can be a little slow in a lot of cases and not move very much. I mean, you can just see, for the example, today price action between 37 and 44. So you're looking at 6 points total. Okay, that's not a lot. NASDAQ, we can see quite a bit more here. Okay, interesting stuff on the NASDAQ too, with a 7,700 figure up here. All right, well, let's start to define the elements here on the Bookmap chart so you understand what you're looking at and how to read it and use it. Okay, I'm gonna close a lot of our add-on indicators here. So we just look at the basic Bookmap chart, our historical VWAP, our iceberg detector, our CBD subchart here. I'm gonna close that. And also our point of control here. I'm gonna close that up. All right, so now we're looking at a simplified Bookmap chart. Okay, there is a volume subchart here, but there's basically 3 elements on this chart, and all of them are very, very simple and very straightforward. Okay, so let's start with a candlestick chart, and I'm going to take these 3 elements off and add them on one at a time and define them. Okay, because this is the view we're usually accustomed to looking at, is a candlestick chart. So right now we're looking at a 5-minute candlestick chart. Okay, open, high, low, and close of a 5-minute period. Right now, there's a lot of opacity here. Okay, it's simple to read or look at, but we're really closed off from a lot of information here, a tremendous amount. We're looking at only a couple percentages of what the chart has to offer here in terms of data. It's open, high, low, and close of a 5-minute period. 4 data points, that's it. Okay, what happened inside this 5-minute period? Okay, between this one and the previous one? What did price actually do? What kind of microstructures that led to bigger structural moves? What about the volume? Where did the volume trade? How much? What type? And exactly where and when in that microstructure that we're going to look at here. Okay, we can't answer any of those questions here. We just don't know. It's all completely opaque to us. And then finally, the third element that we're going to show here is the heat map. Where are they bidding and offering? We have no clue. Okay, we want to know that, and that's actually the biggest feature in Bookmap. So let's just break down the microstructure by simply adding on the first Bookmap element here, and that's historical best bid and offer. And let's zoom in here. Okay. And this is what I mean by microstructure. Between this 5-minute period here, we can see all sorts of structural areas here. For example, here is a sideways market. And then what happens here? Well, we break out of that sideways market, okay, that consolidation, and we consolidate for a little bit. We continue to break out though. Now we're starting to trend in the microstructure, okay? We want to understand now, well, first off, we can see the structure, but let's look at now the next element on the Bookmap chart, and that's the volume dots, okay? Now we're starting to understand very precisely how volume relates to the microstructure. Okay, if we zoom in here a little bit more, you can see this is just how the market works. It's very, very typical here. Here's the sideways consolidation. Look at the volume, the buy volume starting to pick up at the top of the range here. Okay, it doesn't break out here. It goes back in to the consolidation here, but the buyers come right back in, and then they do break out here. And look how they break out, okay, on size. Okay, the big volume dots here means there's more trading activity. And let's actually get rid of our drawings here, and I'll zoom in and show you what I mean. Okay, so the bigger the dot, the larger the volume. The green dot, okay, let's take a look at this. It represents the aggressor here, the buyer, using market buy orders. Okay, they cross the spread and they take liquidity off of the best ask. Okay, that's the what we're displaying here. Okay, and you can see as I zoomed in here that we broke down every single transaction. Okay, everything is recorded here. We're at microsecond level, millions of seconds. We can look at nanosecond levels here. We can continue to zoom in and look at an amazing amount of information here. However, we don't really trade at those levels. So when we zoom back out, we just visually aggregate that into a bigger dot so you get the overall understanding. Okay, you can use the volume or data tip tool here. You can see this for a volume of 16. Okay, we see the date the timestamp, what was on the ask, and then the volume. All right, so that's market buy. The red dot is a market sell. Okay, so that's all we're displaying so far on this chart. But yet, look at the insight that we're getting. Okay, compared to this this candlestick chart here. Okay, in fact, it even looks better up here. I'm still looking for this to continue because we see even more volume up in these areas up here. So let's see if we can get back up into that area. Well, we do. We get a test back up here, as you can see. But what happens up here? Well, there's some pretty decent volume up here in these little areas here. Here's the retest though. Okay, and then look at this little area up here. Okay? We don't see much buying up here any longer. We don't see much buying in this little area here as well. This is what I'm talking about with microstructure and volume and getting insight here. Okay? Sellers start to come in and hit the bid. Okay? So this is, and we'll see this again and again and again. And then now look at more volume trading at a lower low below this bigger structural area here. Okay? Sellers start to take control. Right? Now we're just reading the volume and microstructure here. Okay? So we can let's take this candlestick chart off because it's really not giving us much information. But we're starting to understand like what's going on, who's in control. And for those of you looking at footprint chart, this is primarily what you're looking at, except that you don't have the capability of looking at microstructure and the relationship of volume to it. And that's one of the drawbacks of a footprint chart, okay, is because it's aggregated data on a bar, just like a candlestick. It's a periodicity of data. And it doesn't break down and really give you the insight to structure and volume. Okay, now that's pretty simple and straightforward. Let's add the third element on here, okay, and that is the heat map. All right, so this is where a lot of traders get kind of confused of what Bookmap is showing here. It's actually really simple and straightforward. And let's go to the current market to cover this. Okay. All right, so this vertical white line here, this divides the historical market to the left and the current market here to the right. Okay, so this is the best bid and offer here. These numbers, or this number is the last traded volume. This is our price ladder here, and then we're going to cover this current order book column, just this one. Okay, this is liquidity. These numbers here, these are contracts. Okay, traders lining up, providing liquidity at specific price levels. Okay, we can see them. We know where they're bidding and offering. Offering above current price, this is where they want to sell, and down here they're bidding. Okay. What we do in Bookmap is we take these numeric values and transform them into a heat map in this window with the best bid and offer. Okay. So very high liquidity, you can see here, 81 contracts, well, it's orange. Okay. 85 up here is also orange. Okay. The scale of the heat map is up here. Red and orange is the highest liquidity. Okay. Then yellow, then white, then blue, and then black is the least amount of liquidity. Okay. So that's all we're doing in this current window here, okay, is taking these numeric values and then transforming them into a heat map. All right, now what we do though is we take that data and then we transpose it onto the chart historically. Okay, so now we can start to understand the history of the auction. Where are they bidding and offering? What was their behavior in the auction? Now we're really getting some insight here to not just the transaction, but the interest in trading at specific areas, okay, and the reaction of the aggressor. So, for example, you know, we traded down into these areas here, high liquidity, and what was their behavior here? Okay. We can use this data tip tool again. 71 contracts here at this 87.5 area, and they pulled. So, did they want to trade here? We can answer the question emphatically, no. They pulled their liquidity. They also pulled a 1.5 lower, or 1.5 lower here at 86, and they pulled again. Okay, but they stayed in the book down here, okay, at 84. Right, so they're not so interested or keen on buying at these levels, but they look like they want to buy down here. Okay? And they're starting to add at 84 and a quarter, a little bit higher. So they're still showing interest down here. Okay, now let's see the aggressor here, and let's see them test this area. They're just about to test it. Okay, and let's see if these guys stay in the book and trade. Okay, it looks pretty good. Okay, they're staying in here. They're pulling a little bit. This guy at 84 and a quarter pulled, but they're staying here at 84. And there they go. Okay, so it traded through it. Let's check it out. Okay, we're making a distinction here. This is real liquidity. Okay, they didn't pull it. They stayed in the book and had the intent to trade, and they are long. Okay, they bought at this level. They got what they wanted with their limit orders. Okay, and what occurred here? Well, they somewhat stayed in the book. 62 contracts traded here, but look at the majority of it kind of pulled as price came down into this area here. Okay, and then what about this area here? Well, they stayed in the book here, and we know that, right? So larger players potentially starting to layer in, well, if it, they could be exiting here, but they could be layering in and buying. Okay, now we continue to go through these areas here. There's more sellers than it overwhelms the liquidity. Okay, but we know that these guys here are long. So starting to look for maybe exhaustion with the selling, or maybe there's just a complete absorption. Maybe they provide more liquidity at these areas and they can't get through it, right? And then we're going to bounce off of that area because there's no more sellers. They're completely absorbed. Okay, in this case, they layered into this on the way down, and then you can see that the buyers are starting to step in here. Okay, we break this microstructure right here. Okay, this area here. Okay, more buyers starting to step in. Okay, let's see now if we can get back up into 84. Okay, that's where we broke from up here, right? Okay, so starting to really start to put together the context of the liquidity and the aggressor. Okay, this is really truly starting to understand now the market, okay, and the order flow here. Okay, it gives you a lot of insight to some of these areas here. Now we're continuing to bounce around here back and forth, but we are finding some buyers here. Okay, we just made a higher low here, in fact. Okay, and we're finding more buyers again here. Let's see. I'm looking for these buyers to now sweep the book higher up into 84. Let's see if they can do that. No, just to the swing high so far. Okay, but see, there's some volume that's starting to trade up here though. Okay, now look at their behavior up here at 84. Okay, and 85. Okay, they're pulling. Okay, well now they're back in. All right, so it looks like we're going to kind of go sideways here for a bit, starting to understand now they're pulling and adding lower here. Okay, now what's the reaction though to that adding, this liquidity down here? Not much. It's kind of muted right now. Okay, so we're finding some sellers react to it. Let's see if the buyers take them on. Okay, if the buyers take these guys on and trade into it, and then can trade a little bit through it, we're going to come up into our 84, 85 level here. Okay. Instead now, because of this skew, now we're starting to see a little bit of reaction. Okay, some sellers starting to come in. And now they're pulling down here at 77, and they're adding and pulling, back and forth here. So right now, we're kind of there's our skew. There's our skew. Okay, so see how these guys, and we know that this is a larger player here. He pulled his liquidity and at the same moment added it lower, and then they pulled down here. Okay, so now we can start to identify the players. Okay, pulling and adding lower here. Right, that would be rather challenging to do in a DOM, depth of market. Okay, it's hard to see that very, very quickly. And in your dome, when these numbers change, you're gonna have to remember what was there before. Okay, simple as that. But with Bookmap here, we recorded it all, so you don't have to do that. It's all here graphically. Okay, now, okay, I'm still looking for, because they're starting to absorb quite a bit here, or stay in the book and trade here. I'm looking for the aggressive buyers here to start to step in. Okay, this is a nice flush through into higher liquidity down here. Okay, so we were kind of looking for, in this little area here, it started to, look pretty good. We might come back up into this 84 level. That's where the liquidity was, right? And well, we saw what happened here. Higher liquidity that on the offer, they started to skew the book. They lowered it. They started to pull down here, and we found sellers, and they traded through and below the swing here. Okay, now we've seen, and putting all of this context together, layering in over here, layering in here, now we're starting to find those buyers. Okay, and looking for, again, I'm still looking for this kind of 84 level up here. That's where we broke from. Let's see if we can get up there. All right, if not, then and we start to exhaust out on the sell side, on the buy side, and we start to see more liquidity, and the reaction is finding sellers instead, well, then I'm looking for this other area down here. Yeah, most likely around 74, maybe even the swing low, 72 to be tested. Okay, and that seems to be the case right now. So anyway, you can start to see, like, I'm looking at structure and who is in control in some of those areas. Okay, so for example, structure again. Okay, now not so much microstructure in this sense. We're looking at this bigger structure here. Okay, we need to see more volume up in this area here, right? Or just above it here, like around 82, 82 and a half. And then we can get a nice push, not only up to 84, but I think we can even go quite a bit higher. Okay, but we're not finding them right now, right? In fact, we're making a lower high here. Okay, so let's see if the sellers now, we get that skew in the book again. The liquidity's down here, we know that. And we just need the aggressors here. We'll start to read the aggressors' reaction to this liquidity. Anyway, just some of the basics here in the order flow, and we really start to get into some of the details in the advanced order flow webinar. In some of these areas here, like this little area here is where the buying started to pick up. That's why we're kind of bouncing here at the moment. And we need to see if we can still kind of accept here. The buyers start to accept in this little area here at 77. Okay, if not, the sellers are gonna have to jump in here on some size, and we can get a nice flush move through back down to the lows here. Okay, here they come. Okay, so let's see if they can continue that. We need to see them follow through though. There's our follow through. Okay, so now I'm looking for the lows here. Okay, 74, 73, 72. They're pulling at 74. Let's see it come down and test into 73. Okay. Let's see that test. Come on, guys. Let's see the push, 74 or 73. No, so now look at a 74 here. They just came in with 130 contracts here. Okay, so that has now changed. The order flow has now changed. Okay, changed with this right here. Now it's 145, 150 contracts here. Okay, so all of a sudden that scenario changed. Right, and this is due to this very high liquidity right here. Anyway, we got to go. It's time to start the other webinar. So if you guys are registered with Bookmap or subscribe to Bookmap, we'll see you over there. Else, have a good day, and we'll catch up with you guys tomorrow. Okay, bye-bye.